The Unfiltered by Jade.
Jade.
Welcome to The Unfiltered by Jade, where we get out of the box and dive into topics that are sidelined. I look forward to entertain, educate, and inspire. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, donate, and make everybody know about this.
Beats by RB Records, a proud sponsor of The Unfiltered by Jade.
Shopping Assistance Jamaica takes the stress away. Our services include online and local shopping in Jamaica for individuals and businesses, personal shopping, purchasing of company and office supplies, importing and exporting small packages across Jamaica and worldwide, helping you to find unique gifts and items for all events and occasions. Contact us at 876-919-5195. Shopping Assistance 2015 at gmail.com. Follow Shopping Assistance on Instagram at Shopping Assist JA, at Twitter at Shopping Assist 5, and Facebook at The Shopping Assistance. Shopping Assistance, your style, your budget. Welcome back to The Unfiltered by Jade. Today we have with us someone who I'm going to say I love listening to. I have found out about her recently and I enjoy listening to her. And the strange thing about this is it's a child that I'm listening to. And it's a child who has a podcast. And her podcast is very exciting and we're gonna know more about her now. So hi Siona.
Hello, Jade.
How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. All right. So I want to know a little bit about you, and I'm sure our listeners also want to know who you are. Just give us a little bit about your background.
Well, I'm Siyonas Vikram. I'm 10 years old now, and I've been podcasting since I was 8. I host a podcast, Little Mind Chats, for children across the world. And as you can tell from my voice that I grew up in the UK. I was born and brought up in the UK for the first 8 years of my life. And then we moved to India, which is when I started my podcast.
Nice. That's very nice. And you can hear the enthusiastic in her voice and how she is. So we're going to jump right into it. So how is it that you got started? I mean, a while ago you said that is when you went back to India that you started it. But tell me about the steps in which it took for you to begin this podcast.
Well, I was a 7-year-old in the UK back then, and that's when I discovered about podcasts. The whole idea literally fascinated me, and I knew that I wanted to listen to podcasts. But after some time, there were only stories and science podcasts is what I discovered. And so I've always been that reality-based topic kind of kid, and I wanted something even more than just stories and science. Reality-based topics. So I thought, why can't I start one podcast of myself? My own. And then I bugged my mom, and then a decision came in the family that we moved back to India for good. And then the coronavirus happened. That gave us a lot of time because the world was in doom while we were going under a boon. So that gave us...
Go ahead. Sorry.
So that gave us more time to start my podcast.
Nice. Very nice. And I'm happy about the interest that you have actually in it. I don't find kids around your age having interest in listening to podcasts. So that for me is amazing. How do you come up with your topics? Because you have so many interesting topics and I've been listening to them and I'm saying, how is it that she came up with all these topics?
Well, since children have just started out in the world, we have little understanding of many topics. So I take advantage of that and take a main topic, like something like health or space. And then I take my mom's help, sit down with her and decide the subtopics underneath it. Or otherwise, if we can't decide and we're a bit confused on what can go under it, we first look for guests in that field. And then we see what they're good at, and depending on that, we make the subtopics.
Very nice. Very nice. And this method also can help other podcasters who sometimes are running out of topics and don't think about having subtopics with their topics to expand and get different topics from it. So that is amazing. What is your audience like and how has the feedback been?
Well, my audience are mostly children, and before I could go any further, Jade, I'd like to ask you, say if there was an adult and they were a parent as well, and they had their children and listening to your podcast, and then they came back to you saying that their children got deeply impacted and that made a change in their children's lives due to your podcast, how would it feel?
It makes me feel great.
Yeah, same here too. I'd like to share with you 2 incidents that happened like this.
Sure.
So the first incident is about a boy who literally said no to any veggies and fruits and set aside healthy foods and turned his head to unhealthy foods. And then after listening to my podcast, and to be specific, the episode about healthy eating, he literally just took away junk food from his life and started eating veggies and fruits, even without his mum having to tell him. And his mum was shocked by this, shocked in a good way. And she came back to us and she told this incident. And this really made me happy that my podcast is making a difference. It made the guest happy as well. Really happy.
And the second one?
And the second one is, there's a girl who was slightly older than me, and she listened to the episode about keeping your eyes healthy, and then she worked out why she was getting so many headaches. And she tried practicing the exercises that the pediatrician on my podcast suggested, and it really helped her. So she came back to us with a PPT about keeping your eyes healthy, and that was another really happy incident.
Very nice. I'm happy to hear that. I'm happy to hear people are learning. And I'm going to add my third one to this list. Can I do so?
Sure.
So I did not know certain things about the Olympics until I listened to your podcast. So now I am educated about things that had happened in the Olympics in the past and present because of your podcast.
Wow, thank you. Thank
you. So that's a third one that you can add to that list. And I'm an adult and I don't know this. So I think you're doing an amazing job. Speaking about the podcast, how did you get interested in news? Because you do news from around the world, what's happening, it doesn't matter what it is, you are up to date. How is it that you got interested in news?
Well, many educators and schools, they advise children to keep ahead with the news. And that's because they want us to be prepared. News kind of prepares us for the world ahead of us. And the place where children can directly access news is the daily newspaper or the news channels on TV. But there's one thing about it. It's tailored for adults, not children. So even I have experienced this very explicit content and very boring content and loud. I mean, kind of loud. And I knew that I had to put news in my podcast because even I believe that children are global citizens and the children of today are the leaders of tomorrow. And all the news is linked. Like one incident could lead to the other. For example, climate change could lead to forest fires, and forest fires could lead to climate refugees, isn't it?
Yes.
And say if there was a kid living in the UK, sitting in the UK, and like saying, no, I don't want to know the news, I don't want to know what's going on in the world, they aren't ready to take in, and they don't know what's going on in Afghanistan to say that, to be mentally prepared for new people with different stories coming into their land, and then they can just be prepared to take it in if they knew the news.
Yes, and they'll be better able to help persons to prepare for it, or they'll be also better able to have a conversation about it.
Yes, exactly.
Man. So how do you keep balanced with school, homework, your podcasting, you're keeping up with the world, and you're enjoying your childhood? How do you manage all of this?
Well, do you know of any school going kids, Jade?
Yes, I do.
Well, a average child in the USA spends about 4 to 6 hours on screen.
Yes, they do.
Well, I do spend screen time as well, but I know school is excusable, but the other bit of screen time, I don't spend it on entirely pure entertainment. I spend it a bit on my podcast, and then, if I have time, on entertainment.
Oh, okay.
So, and I do enjoy my childhood because sometimes if we go on family outings, we do go on family outings and other places. So that really makes me enjoy my childhood.
Okay, so you keep everything in balance.
Yes, and if we have to go anywhere or if there's something, we just like take a break from my podcast.
And that's fine because sometimes we need to take a break from certain things to enjoy family time together. So that's fine also.
Yes.
Yes, I'm good to hear that. No, we are at the end of it, but I want to know where is it that persons can find you?
Well, you can find me on. Firstly, you just need to go to my website, which is littlemindchats.com, and you can contact me from there. Then you can go to Instagram or Clubhouse and directly message me there, like how we met.
Yes.
And you can just go to any social media platform and just type Little Mind Chats and you'll find me there.
And we'll find you there. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving us some insights and even helping us adults how to, get our podcast being done, because it just drops a little gems for us. Sometimes these are the little things that we need to hear. And definitely, I honestly believe that a child will lead them, and you are doing so. So thank you so much. I believe you're doing such a good work. You are going into people's homes and educating them about different things around the world. And you're doing it in such a way that it's entertaining and it's educating at the same time. So thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for having you on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, and you're welcome.
Yes. And thank you guys for listening to the Unfiltered by Jade. And we'll be back next week, Tuesday. Thank you.
Bam bam bide, bam bam bide, bam bam bide, bam bam bide.